and you guys stood around me and prayed like protection around me.
That.
And man, I lost it. I remember that was like such a healing because I felt alone.
Yeah.
And I felt like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And I felt this like covering, you know, of guys that will take bullets, you know, and you guys became like this shield of protection. And I think that was the prayer. I can't remember because I have terrible memories, but that's a very vivid memory for me of those moments of bonding. And that's where trust is built, you know? And I've always told ReLeaders, you got to build your team first. It's the most important thing. It's more important than culture, trust, anything else. You got it. That team that's around you has to be the right team. And if it's not, it's going to be way harder. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the ReLeader podcast. I'm so excited you've taken some time out of your busy day to listen, watch, wherever you're watching, listening from. Thank you. Take some time. If you would, if this has been beneficial to you, it's helpful to you, share it, post it, like it, comment on it. If you got friends that are ReLeaders, make sure you're sending that to them so they can be a part of this community. You can also go to releader.co. On there, you're going to find all kinds of content specifically for you if you're a ReLeader. And what we say when we're a ReLeader, if you're new to the podcast, what we mean by that is you didn't start the organization. You didn't start your department. You are taking it over. You're adopting it. You inherited an organization. You inherited staff, and you're not leading it. You're actually releading it. And so welcome to this community. Today I have a couple of guests on me. These are my boys. These are my partners, my partners in crime. We have been together leading Victory Church since 2014.
Yeah.
This November will actually be our 10-year anniversary. Which is crazy.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And so up on the screen, his full sexy self up there is Pastor Oscar Ortiz, and Pastor Wade is in studio with me. Yep. And Pastor Dale is the third DLT member that's not here. He's fourth actually, but he's the third, not including me. He's not here. He's our CFO, CEO. Mm-hmm. Oscar oversees our OKC campus. Wade oversees our Grapevine campus and our Edmond campus. And I guess technically, Oscar, you oversee the Iglesia campus as well?
He does.
So
he's the only one that speaks Spanish.
He's the only one that speaks Spanish. It's kind of needed. So I'm just excited. We don't even know what we're going to talk about. We're just going to kind of wing it. But these guys helped me relead. I mean, we've been in the trenches together for 10 years. We've been at Victory Church together about the same amount of time. We were all got there about 3 years before that.
Yep.
And then whenever I took over in 2014, I put these guys on my lead team, and we had no idea what we were doing.
Still don't.
We still really don't.
Figure it out
in a lot of ways. Sure. But these guys are some of our best friends, and we've had some down times, good times, bad times, brutal times. But here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. So thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having us. What an honor.
Yeah.
Well, I think every ReLeader, that's what's really important for us to notice is that whenever, most of my content a lot of times is just driven towards the ReLeader, the person that's leading the organization. But the truth is every single person in the organization is a ReLeader.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
From the top throughout the entire organization, everybody steps up and releads. And so you guys are ReLeaders. And so your roles as ReLeaders were different. But I just thought it'd be fun for us to reminisce, and talk about our journey. And I wrote about it, some of my book, and I write about it from time to time, but it's always good to get that perspective. So I just want us to kind of go down a memory lane, and
I blocked out some
reminisce.
Of those years.
I know
it's going to be hard to remember some of it.
We're going to have to conjure up some of the things that we've suppressed.
This may be a therapy session, actually. Rehashing some things.
I think a good place to start is, I know that I felt it. I know you guys felt it, but I actually think it's part of what made us who we are and were, is that we just felt like we were in over our heads. And I think we felt like that because we were.
Yeah.
But how did that feel to you guys? Like, you may remember the moment that I asked you guys to step into your roles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just kind of go down memory lane. And how did that feel? Because there's ReLeaders out there that are watching this that, one, they can either relate to that, or I get subscribers all the time on ReLeader that are like, I just accepted this position. I'm about to step into it. I didn't know I was a ReLeader, but now I see that I am. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people that are right now stepping into that, right? And so them hearing how that felt for us might help them reassure the things they're wrestling with. So Oscar, go ahead and tell us your journey.
Man. For me, was a big jump because this was never on my radar. My previous ministry experience was mostly with youth ministry and with worship. In fact, when I came to Victory, I came and I accepted the position of the worship pastor at the Oklahoma City campus. So that was my world. That was my focus. We were writing songs. We were, doing music, original music. So when everything that we went through happened for that year, I mean, just like many of us, we were just saying, Lord, get us out of here. Get us out of here. God, please, please, God, please. What's happening? We had just moved to Victory. We had been in Victory for 2 years, so we were fairly new.
And you moved from Texas, so you moved all the way to Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden all this happened.
So we came, and it was just a crazy season. I mean, not to mention the big ask, but we had just moved 3 months prior to that. We just moved houses. 2 months after that, my wife's mom passes away. Yep. So we're dealing with that. And then 2 months after that, that's when the big bomb, exploded in Victory. Yep. And so we were just in the middle of it, wondering what happened. God, what are you going to do? And then you come up and it's like, hey, I think you said, and you explained to me what the Lord was telling you. So, and then you just said, I think, you can be the next Oklahoma City campus pastor. And I think I told you, I think you're crazy because we didn't know each other that well, John. I mean, you have been in Edmond all this time. Yep. I've been in OKC and doing completely different things. So it was a big question from someone that I wasn't really sure, I knew.
Yeah.
But it was we've been praying, but the thing that I remember is I felt an enormous amount of peace. Even when I went and took it to my wife and prayed about it, we just said, this might be, I mean, what do we have to lose? If there's anything, we have an opportunity, let's do it. And here we are, 10 years later.
Well, I remember, I agree. I didn't know you very well. And I remember that I was the interim. I believe, or was I already the lead pastor? I was the lead. I was the lead at that point. Yeah. No. I was the lead.
Yeah.
I had to have been.
Were you lead? Yeah. Because, you're right.
We had 2-3 guys.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you were because
none of us know. We're just making stuff up. I don't know. Where were you? Sure. I don't know. Was it Victory Church? I don't know. What church was it? No, but I just remember you were leading worship and I was sitting on the front row and you kind of took a step forward and you just started, like, for lack of a better word, you just started exhorting and ministering, and it's like you just put your guitar down and started speaking life into the church, and it was just a real moment of clarity for me. It wasn't because you had done something or proved something. It was just the Lord saying, "That's your guy."
I remember you calling me that night.
Really?
You told me about Oscar. I think I thought he had done a call to Christ or something, but I guess he exhorted. But I remember you calling and saying, "I think I found our next campus pastor."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said Oscar. And it was like, I had the same thought of like, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I mean, I didn't know you that well either.
You probably thought, why Oscar? Who's Oscar?
No, I actually, I remember thinking to myself, that would be cool. And I think I said that to John. And I didn't know you that well because I was in Edmond.
Yeah. I just remember having a real peace. Again, it's funny you say that, just a real peace. And even whenever, there was talks about me becoming the lead pastor, I was terrified. I didn't know how to do that. I was in over my head, but it was like just this peace, a process of peace in that. So
I think you mentioned this before, but I think I see it between all three of us. There's something about us running towards the fire, running towards the danger that I think that was partially why part of me was like, let's do this, let's go kick the devil in the teeth and and let's build a kingdom. So, I think that was part of it.
Yeah. In the book, that's really chapter 1 is you got to have the spark, and really all you're saying is the Lord's called you to it. And there's a part of ReLeading that when it's first presented, everything in the natural is like, why in the heck would you want to do that?
Yep.
Your instincts tell you to run, but there's something way down in the pit of your, the heart of your bottom.
Yeah.
The bottom of your heart. That's just like, I think the Lord's telling me to do this. And that's that spark of let's go. It's the building's on fire and we're going to run into the building. It may burn down, but let's do our best to save this thing. So, what about you, Wade?
Yeah, mine was a little different than Oscar. I obviously, you hired me to be a youth pastor early on, and
which was crazy because that was a demotion for you.
It was. To speak to that just a little bit, I felt not necessarily the calling to the youth pastor role. I felt the calling to Victory Church, and I tell people all the time. I told someone recently, like, don't worry about the position. If you feel called to an organization, you just go.
That's right.
Because God, I look at it now, and I look back, and God had been bringing certain people into the organization that were going to become the next lead team.
Yep.
He was preparing the way, and had, Oscar, whenever you were asked to move from Texas, if you would have said no to that, if I would have said no, like, he would have filled it with somebody else, but he had a team that he wanted to do it with. So, but anyways, I came on to be a youth pastor, then eventually became your associate campus pastor.
Yep.
And then I remember the day that you called me, and the process, it didn't take me long. Honestly, I think back and I'm like, it did not take me long to say yes. And I think part of that was because the relationship you and I had built over that first couple years.
Right.
In a sense, I had your back, but also felt a calling to Victory Church.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember back to when I was a youth, called to come to as youth pastor. I was like, okay, you called me here and you haven't called me away. We have a choice here. We can either run from the fire, or like what Oscar said, we can run towards it.
Yeah.
And if we're called here, if you're truly called to it, then you run to it.
Yeah.
You don't run away.
Yeah.
If God calls you away, that's one thing. And he does that with different people at different times. But until he's called you away, and I've kind of just always lived my life that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm a pretty loyal person. And so if God's called me to something, I'm going to be loyal to it until he calls me away from it. And so I don't remember having a hard time saying yes to it. I don't mean that flippantly. Like, I didn't know, there was so many unknowns. I didn't know what it was going to look like. And I didn't know if the campus was going to accept me. And I didn't know there was all these unknowns, but it wasn't hard to say yes to the process.
Well, yeah. And it's, when I look back on it, gosh, there's so many miracles, because think of all the new, right? I'm a new face. Oscar's a new face.
Yeah, I'm a new campus.
You're a new face.
Yeah.
Like, the people, I've done teachings on it before, but the remnant, the remnant that stays, they're powerful because the remnant had every reason to leave. Like, if our church had everybody that came to our church, they had every reason to leave. Like, we presented them with every possible reason why they should leave. And, a new pastor in over his head, new campus pastors, new lead team.
Yeah. Everything changed on
everything like
changed.
Overnight shifted. And so God was just so good. And even in this moment, I'm having these nostalgic moments of, and I don't know if anybody will even listen to this podcast, but it'll be super fun for us.
Yeah.
So what are some of your, I'm actually trying to think, I'm not great with my memory. My memory is always really bad.
Maybe that's good for a ReLeader.
It probably is.
I'm the same way.
Our wives will probably remember more.
I know. If our wives listen to this, we're like, no, you idiots. That was all wrong. The dates are wrong. The timing's wrong.
That's exactly right.
Like, I don't remember much from my childhood. Like, some of my earliest memories are like in junior high.
I told my kids that the other night. They were asking me questions like, I don't remember.
Yeah. And I've told sorry, sidebar. I told my kids one, and I felt bad after I said it. They were all worried about something. I'm like, who cares? You're not going to remember this.
That's good parenting there.
I don't think it worked. I think that was a bad parenting move. You're not going to remember this.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
It's honestly the truth.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
But what are some of your earliest memories of, like, I'm trying to think, I don't remember the first 100 days. I don't remember
I remember. So it's interesting where Oscar's podcasting from right now, because that's the room we spent a lot of time. It's the green room at OKC.
Yep.
And I don't remember why we were there, but I remember there being a meeting where it felt like, I don't know why I remember this, but I just remember sitting in the chair and you were sitting across from me. Oscar was sitting there and Dale was sitting there. And I remember it felt like an hour that nobody said anything. It was a day where we were all exhausted. We'd all had our challenges. And again, I don't remember why, but I remember sitting there and we were in the middle of it. Nobody had said, maybe it had been 15, 20 minutes. It felt like an hour that nobody said anything. And I remember just sitting there thinking to myself, I don't really know how we're going to do this, but I love the people that are in this room right now. And I remember I visually remember looking at each one, and then I'd glance over and I'd look at, and I'd say, and I just thought to myself, I love them. And kind of fighting off some emotion. I don't cry very much.
No, you don't. You all cry though.
Yeah. But I remember thinking to myself, and I think that was to me one of the most important things, that I don't care what the fire looks like and what the hill is going to look like, but I will do it with these guys. And you know, I'm gonna run into the burning building. Yeah, because I'm doing it with these guys.
Yeah. I remember that when you said that room, I had a bunch of memories. I remember a time, I don't remember who led us through it, but I remember where I was standing in that room and somebody led us to where you guys stood around me. Do you guys remember that? You like surrounded me.
Was that
it may have been David or
David
somebody.
Boyce did something.
Yeah. I stood in the middle and you guys stood around me and prayed like protection around me. And man, I lost it. I remember that was like such a healing because I felt alone. Yeah. And I felt like, how am I going to do this? Yeah. And I felt this like covering, you know, of guys that will take bullets, you know, and you guys became like this shield of protection. And I think that was the prayer. I can't remember because I have terrible memories, but that's a very vivid memory for me of those moments of bonding. And that's where trust is built, you know? And I've always told ReLeaders, you got to build your team first. It's the most important thing. It's more important than culture, trust, anything else. You got it. That team that's around you has to be the right team. And if it's not, it's going to be way harder.
But you let us in on your pain too. And I'm sure there's some things that you couldn't share with us at that time, but it seemed as though, and you can speak to this, Oscar, but it seemed as though he let us in with a lot of his pain, a lot of the information, and that bonded, that meant a lot to me, because now I can surround you, right? We can stand around you and pray all day long. Right. But until we know what darts are coming at us, we can't really help. And so you sat there in that room many times, whether it be tears or not, and just let us in. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I think it was, Jon's always led with hope.
Yeah.
And in the midst of chaos. And I mean, if you remember, this was not to me, it felt like a demotion coming from worship campus, you know, because he was like, hey, you know, we have way more responsibility, we're more
stress.
But you know, your salary doesn't change. You know, it's going to change for a long time. We get to do this together, yeah. And you know, Wade and I were like, yes, that sounds amazing. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I think that was part of the deal that attracted me to you. We were not trying to build our kingdom. We were just in it like, you know, it was the Jonathan and his armor bearer story. You know, let us go up there. Maybe the Lord, maybe He will hand them over into our hands.
That's so good.
And it was just a big maybe. And my gosh, I'm so thankful that we climbed over. But it was having that knowledge and that faith and seeing this for each other, because I knew by myself, you know, I couldn't do it, and I think all of us felt that way. But we always said, hey guys, we may not know it, but we're gonna figure it out together, and the Lord will always come through, and He has time and time and time again.
So many times.
Man, I love that thought with Jonathan. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Let us go up
You
and
just-
maybe.
That's
That
all
is
he
our
had.
story.
That's what we had. That's what we had.
Yeah.
That we had a
maybe.
hope and a prayer.
Yeah.
That's
barely,
so good.
barely at times.
That's really, really good.
But I think in that case, you were the Jonathan. John. Oh, look at that.
Jonathan.
John.
My name is
What?
Jonathan.
Your name is not John. Your name is Jonathan.
Yeah, that's my real name,
No.
Jonathan.
And yeah.
And Ray's real name is
Lord-
Darrell,
It is.
which means nothing.
Oh, jeez.
That's a whole other story.
We're nerds.
Oh, man.
Huh.
Wow.
But those are the moments I remember that we would just get to it and go through meetings, not having an idea of what we're gonna do, but we would pray,
Mm-hmm.
and
Gosh,
little by
that's the
little,
truth.
God would show up.
That's
So
the truth.
I hope this is helpful for people that are going through it right now.
That's who this is really for.
Yep.
It's for me too, because this is fun to reminisce and you become so keenly aware of the faithfulness of God, because and I will say there's so many times that we would beg and plead the Lord for things and it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Money, finances, people,
And in
staff,
some ways, we still are waiting on something.
100%, and we always will be, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And it's 10 years later.
yeah, and I don't think we ever stop, longing for the Lord to move, and keeps our faith high and our hopes alive.
Mhm.
But man, there's so many times that we would pray and seek the Lord and ask for something, and it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And it could be discouraging, man, as a ReLeader to.
Well, it speaks to what you said earlier, building your team.
Yeah.
Your team is just as much for, surrounding you, praying for you, bringing hope, going through the battle with you, as it is implementing vision and all the stuff. That a lot of times I think what happens with leaders, I got to get my team established so that I can give them tasks and they can give people tasks, and we can move through but it's just as much. And that's why I mentioned that you allowed us in your pain, because it's just as much. Hopefully, I think we were just as much there for you emotionally as we was there for you, and spiritually as we was there for you.
Yeah.
To just to get stuff done.
Yeah. I think a big learning curve for me, if I could go back and talk to myself back then, I think my biggest challenge was that I had never been a pastor, right? I'd been a campus pastor for about 2.5 years or so, but I had no context for what a pastor should do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what senior pastors should they're thinking, or what should drive them. And so I fell into the trap pretty early on of thinking that the only way to have a successful church is to have a big church.
Yeah.
And so because I had no context, I had no mentorship. Craig came in my life early, Pastor Jimmy came in my life early, but a lot of it I was just trying to figure out. Yeah, and Brady, but I was trying to figure out what is it. But you got to think all of the people that came into my life,
big churches.
They were all big churches.
Yeah,
and they never pushed that on me.
Right.
But, and I think it's a disease in the body of Christ right now with pastors.
It is.
We're driven by the wrong things, and I think I was driven by the wrong things, and it really caused me a lot of hardship and turmoil in my mind until God did a real work in me with the orphan heart and all that kind of stuff. And I just had to really kind of stop paying attention to numbers and stop. Numbers are important. I'm not an anti-numbers guy. Every number has a name. I get it. I know the speech. But for that season in my heart, I didn't need to see those because it was taking me down a wrong path. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, hey, that's not a pastor.
Yeah.
That's the wrong definition of a pastor. That's not. You don't need to be driven by that. Just grow big people. Just disciple people. Just have people encounter the presence of God. Don't worry about who comes. Don't worry about who leaves. Don't worry about. And I started off. I would say that my first 3-4 years was just from the wrong place mentally.
Do you feel like you were driven by it, or do you feel like it was just the pressure of everybody else will see me as successful? I think every
ReLeader feels this pressure of. Everyone's watching.
Yep.
And everyone wants to know, can he do it?
Yep.
is this guy the guy? And
exactly.
I did a podcast several episodes ago about every ReLeader feels the pressure that their predecessor may have been LeBron James,
right?
And now I have to put the ball in the hoop, and can I do it? I don't know. I mean, my predecessor knew how to put the ball in the hoop and put points on the scoreboard, and now LeBron James is gone, and in comes the new guy, and everyone wants to know, can this guy score?
Michael Jordan's gone.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. LeBron James. Who cares if he's gone?
Yeah, it's that pressure.
He's a whiny baby. We're glad he's gone. But yeah, it's the pressure of, and so that's the pressure every ReLeader feels. I mean, you guys had to.
Oh yeah. I came behind you as a campus pastor. I had the same. It was different, but I had the same thoughts. So sometimes I think we've said this before other times, but sometimes it can be harder to follow a good leader than a bad leader.
It's way harder
because you have to come in and prove that you're good too.
It's hard to fill shoes.
And I remember sitting down. I had this conversation with myself all the time. I'm going to be me. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be different, but there's some similarities, but there's also differences. And so I'm going to be me with my staff. I'm going to be me with the people. And I was more concerned about the staff than I was the congregation, to be honest,
because they were hurting.
The congregation, I felt.
The Edmond.
At the Edmond.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were used to my leadership style.
Yeah. And, it's a new guy coming. I was there the whole time, but I wasn't their leader. And so I remember there was a conversation that Cameron had with me. He goes, I'm surprised how quickly the staff's come under you. And he wasn't saying that in a bad way. He was saying it in a good way. Like and I remember thinking, wow, you're right. And that was so encouraging to me. Like, man. And so, but yeah, it's, we all have to face that.
All of us. It's that comparison trap that we all are so susceptible to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine was a little different than Wade's because I wasn't necessarily on the in the OKC campus team. I was not part of any of those meetings. I was just the guy, kind of running worship on the worship side and doing those things. So I felt that a lot of insecurities came, even through that season because I'm like, they're all looking at me like, I mean, in my head, this is what I'm telling myself, who are you to lead us?
Wow.
You're the worship guy. Grab your guitar and lead us into a song. And let us and I would have been happy just with that.
Just to do that.
Yeah.
But and we're coming into a team of people that are hurting. That they don't need to be necessarily led, or pushed. They need to be held. And so it was having that recognition that. Man, we still have to deal with the culture that what was left before us, as positive, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was culture, and we can't just tackle it right away. We have to, take care of our team and build relationship with them first, and put them before some of the systems and programs, and then eventually deal with those things. But initially, in the middle of the healing, is try to figure out, okay, let's come together. Let's be healing to each other and walk this out. And some of the other things we'll figure out, soon enough. But the first thought I thought, we need to come together, and I think that's why you led us very, very clearly in saying, hey guys, you were not trying to hide from the church and say it, hey, we're perfect. We're just moving forward. We're just past this. But it was, because I remember on one all staff that we had, I remember it had been months after we have gone through it. And I just remember thinking, because you would come up and say, hey guys, we've been through a lot. And I just remember thinking in my head, my goodness, when are we going to stop saying we've gone through a lot? When are we? I'm like, I was ready, but our team wasn't. And it was so good that you kept saying, hey, we're gonna get there. Let's hang on. Let's get. And in my head, I'm like, dude, come on, let's go. I listened to a podcast from Dr. Tasha. I'm just like I'm advanced and discerner, so I'm like, come
let's
on,
go. Let's go.
Let's go. So, but
that's the tricky part of leading through any difficult situation is everybody's at a different place.
That's exactly
Some people heal quick. Some people don't heal quick enough. And so trying to be sensitive to all of them can be really challenging. What are some things that you guys would say that if you guys could go back and talk to that guy yourself, those first couple of years, what would you go back and encourage yourself in, or you could frame it a couple of different ways. What are some mistakes you learned, or what would you say if you went back and talked to your former self?
Yeah. we're the three of us.
I was perfect, so I went back and said, "Great job, man! Don't change anything.
You are perfect.
I think you're a stud."
We're all driven people, and so I think that I would go back and say, and I've heard Craig say this, I've heard you say this, but you'll accomplish more. You'll accomplish more in the long run than you will the short run, and just there's something to just being steady.
Mm-hmm.
I like quick change. I like, I like to implement something and it's done now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I had to learn along the way, is that, and even with staff members, my typical approach to things is, I like healthy confrontation. Let's address it right now. I had to learn when to just let it play itself out a little bit sometimes. Like when there was tension on things, that there wasn't a solution immediately. So for me, I had to slow down. I think I'd tell myself, slow down.
Be patient.
Yeah. And the way that you feel today isn't going to stay. There's an expiration date. Like, give yourself some time on this. And it's not going to be in your time. So I think I would slow myself down quite a bit. I wanted too much change too quickly sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's good. But you, P.O.?
I think it'd be very similar. I would just encourage myself to, focus on the people more than just the programming. And at least from my end, that was needed a lot more, to, instead of trying to continue to to feed the beast, focus on people, find out where they are, find out their journey, and become more of a better listener to where they're at, because you can have people go along with you in the journey a lot faster, or even just a lot better journey if you get to know where they're coming from. And get to know their journey, get to know their pain, get to know what their perspective. I think that's what I would tell myself, because I didn't have any of that with our team. And we have an amazing team now. We have a lot of people that we're blessed that stayed through that whole process. And I'm just like, my gosh, we're just truly blessed because we have some true warriors. But that happened, because we had to come together and really build relationships in the midst of all that.
I would tell myself a couple things. I'd tell myself, I would say, skinny jeans are coming, and you're going to give in and start wearing them. So just give in quicker. No, which now baggy jeans are back.
No,
it's crazy.
I don't want to wear them.
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like I'm going back to college with the.
I do too. I feel very unprofessional.
I know. It looks sloppy.
Yeah, and I hated skinny jeans, and then I don't wear like skinny, but anyways, I don't know why we started talking about that. As long as Jinkos don't come back.
Yeah, it's easy to transition, from skinny to baggy.
I would tell myself, and I would probably need to tell myself this every day. I would tell myself it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that's the truth, man.
It's not that big of a deal. All the things that I was so stressed, worried, people leaving or going, or a staff situation, or it's so funny how we can zoom in and magnify something so big that we lose sleep over it, that we get stressed, we have high blood pressure, we, whatever the case may be. And you fast forward 10 years and you're like, I don't even remember that. And it doesn't matter. Who cares? Yeah. So I think, the things we used to worry about is funny.
It really is.
Yeah. Stressed out over people leaving the church or whatever. So, let's do this. What would you say that the Lord's teaching you right now? What's something recently that the Lord has been challenging you with? I can go first if you guys need more time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So I've been open with you guys about this is one not temptation, but one result of being a ReLeader. If you've been a ReLeader, then you know that whenever you enter into an organization, it's usually in a crisis mode, budgetary wise. And so what you have to end up doing is you end up going into survival mode And I think Chris Hodges calls it the hedgehog principle, where you curl up in a ball to protect your vital organs, and you cut budgets, and you cut and you cut, and you become a cheapskate, really, at the end of the day. And you have to be, right? You have to make vision small for a season, because you're like, we're in survival mode. And so what I've realized is that all of my tenures in leadership have usually, almost always, been as a ReLeader. And so that shaped part of me to where I have, honestly, if I'm being real honest with myself, I've limited God in my vision, in my ability to cast big vision, because I've always been such a scarcity mindset.
Sure.
Because had to be to survive. Even back to when I was in higher ed, I was a VP at a little school called Southwestern, and we were broke, man. I mean, so you don't realize you've done it, but you've developed this poverty, almost a poverty mentality, really probably could be described as a poverty mentality. And where I really feel the Lord leaning in on me is say, hey, Jon, Victory Church is not in survival mode anymore. So why are you still acting like it?
Yeah.
And I feel like the Lord is leaning into me to say, the waters didn't part for Moses until he stretched his arm out, the staff over the water. And Peter didn't walk on water until he took a step out of the boat. And I sense the Lord saying to me, I'll move when you move. And if you want to live in this poverty mentality, then good luck. You're going to stay in it. And so trying to shift and I didn't realize it would be this hard, but trying to shift my mentality of leading to from a place of prosperity, not prosperity gospel, but just from a place of wholeness, and God's going to give us everything we need.
I've felt it. I think you probably felt it too, Oscar. I've felt that transition happening in you.
Yeah.
And so even though
it's big triggers on some big ticket items, and it's like my left eye twitches when you do it, but I'm like, okay, Jesus.
Well, even, I think Grapevine's been a part of that.
Sure.
Launching a new campus in an entirely different state, you can't do that from a scarcity mindset.
Well, and we're learning that we weren't internally, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And adding a fourth campus has exposed a lot of weaknesses in our
in some ways, I feel like we're just getting, you hear that all the time, we're just getting started. I really feel like in a lot of ways, we're just getting started.
Yeah. So it's exposed us in a lot of ways, in a good way, things that we need to tweak and work on. And so those are some of the things the Lord's dealing with me on.
Yeah. I think mine's been, I was just processing it. I feel like it's been happening over the last 2 years. So, it's not exactly right now, but it's still happening now. I feel like the Lord has been transitioning me from, this sounds weird, a pastor to a shepherd. And I mean that by a shepherd is, you do more than just pastoring. A big part of the shepherd is protection. And I've had to, when I was at the Edmond campus and we were going through a transition to me transitioning to the Grapevine campus, I found myself having to have more shepherding conversations, and I don't
like corrective
conversations,
not discipline,
not bad, healthy conversations. But when you're going through change and you're going through, we even you can think about this even back to when we going through our stuff. But I feel like now the difference in me now for the difference in me when we first started is I didn't know how to do that in a healthy way. I didn't know how to correct someone older than me. I mean, a lot of the people that I could think of one quick conversation where I had to bring some correction. And here's what's interesting about it. This guy's much older than me, probably late 70s. And I remember having this conversation. He was really upset about me leaving and didn't like the way that maybe it was happening. And I ended up sitting him down and lovingly heard him, but then lovingly corrected him. And I ended up going to your condo that night, and I read you the text message, and he said to me, "Thank you for taking me to the Lord tonight. Thank you for correcting me, and thank you for I'm thankful that you did that." And so I've found myself having to do that more, and I think it's because God has really been wanting to stretch me. And so when you're going through transition, there are so many opportunities for assumptions and negativity to get in there and ruin what God is doing. God has called this transition, right? And so, but there was so many opportunities for that to happen. And so I had to step into the uncomfortable.
And some of that's coming with our age, when when I became the lead pastor of Victory Church, I was 34. I mean, we were kids.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is.
Exactly.
We were children, and we were in over our head. We knew it. We were humble about it. We didn't pretend like we weren't. But we're coming. You know, I'm 44 now. You're 44.
Mhm.
Oscar's like 73,
Yeah.
something like that. I can't remember what you
The
are.
older one,
What are you? 46, 47?
48. I just turned 48.
Man, you are old. Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, they say, you know, you kind of make that transition from being a son
Yeah.
to being more of a father. And then you get into your 60s and now it's all about legacy and grandfather. And so we're kind of we're getting a lot of gray hairs on these beards.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that is our age. We're entering into a season where, you know, we're not experts by any stretch of the imagination, but we've been around the block a time or two.
Yep.
And it comes with a measure of anointing for that and a confidence to bring those moments of shepherd-like loving correction and confidence. And so I think that's super healthy.
Well, just real quick, I heard someone say clear as kind. And so a lot of times when we don't do that, we're not bringing clarity and we're avoiding the situation out of sometimes I think you can do it out of, I don't want to hurt this person.
Right.
And so this even happened with staff, but to bring clarity, even if it's uncomfortable,
even if it stings,
is really kind. And I think every time I've done it, I found that people have appreciated it, and it's removed assumptions. Everything can happen in an assumption.
Yep.
So, anyways, it's
really good.
I think it's really helped me. Yeah.
What you think, Pastor?
For me, it was two things, man. One was God can do more with less, and the other one is something that a friend of mine just reminded me or quoted for me, and it was that growth is a great deodorant. And so God can do more with less. To me, was that don't forget that God can do more even with the things that I consider less or minor or not a big deal. That God is able to use those things, and in fact, he in many times he welcomes it. And some of the conversations that we've had lately, it feels like even as a church, we're trying to become more simple. We're trying to become, away. And I'm not. We're not against churches who do this, but we're recognizing that is not us. We're not really wanting to have the huge concert, dark church feel. Lights, smoke. We're getting away from that. Because I think God can do more with less. And again, I'm not dogging those churches to do that. But for us, we're saying, hey, let's just strip some of the things that we can do without, and let God show what He can do, even when those things are not present.
Yeah, it's good.
So I love that we're leaning towards that we're leaning towards more moments of reflective, prophetic times in our body. So that was the first thought, and the other thought was the growth is a great deodorant. A pastor friend of mine from Milwaukee reminded me this, because we are in a season where people our church is in a great. We're in a healthy momentum, it feels like. Our Sundays are energetic. I mean, people are coming to the altars. People are getting baptized, saved, and we see that. And so we see growth in so many different areas, but that can also hide some of the things that are more important than when we forget. So
that's good.
Even as we're growing, we cannot disregard that we can stop looking at the systems, at some of the things that we've implemented, at taking care of the small things or the details that sometimes we think, oh, it's really not that big of a deal. No, in the kingdom it is. So because God can do more with the less, with the things that we take for granted many times, the shepherding moments, the times where we still take people out for coffee, where we're checking on people, that we're not just wanting to build this kingdom on social media, but that we're truly want to build His kingdom. I think that defines us now as a pastor, that we're not trying to build. We can build the church. We can only build big people. He will build His kingdom, but we need to be strategic and focused and determined to build the people God has given us. as part of
Growth is a great deodorant. I love that. That's really good. He's not. You're not wrong.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, but we shouldn't. We should still know we have BO, and we need to. We need to deal with it.
There's a reason you're wearing the deodorant.
We got some stuff we need to deal with up in here. So that's good stuff, man. Well, anything else on y'all's hearts?
Love you, man.
Share?
Love you too.
Love you guys.
For you.
It's we're just getting warmed up, baby.
I feel like we said it just a minute ago, but I feel like we're just getting started in a lot of ways, man. There's so much, there's great momentum happening, but going back to what Oscar was saying, I don't know. There's just a fresh there. I think the global church is kind of here too. And you can have, it's not about the lights or the smoke or whatever. Churches can have that. I think that people are so hungry for God right now in this time.
Yeah.
And it's an exciting time to be we are lucky to do what we do, to be pastors. This is our profession, and we get to do this, and I think it's the most exciting time in history, maybe, to do it.
Yep.
So,
best job I ever had.
Best job I ever had. That's for sure.
When we said we're just getting warmed up, I immediately had the quote from Tombstone pop in my head. One of the greatest movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Where Doc Holliday says, "Not me, I'm in my prime."
Oh yeah. Oh, that is such a great movie. I'll be your
We're in our prime, baby.
Mm-hmm.
We'll keep telling ourselves that as we groan while we get out of bed in the mornings.
Yeah.
I started writing down. I think I'm on 13. All the movies that you quote on ReLeader, John. Oh, it's movies and TV shows. I started writing them down for fun. I think you have
Office,
13.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Titanic, The Office,
and the publisher made me take a bunch of those out. Which,
oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. I had all kinds of stuff in there, man. Like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I had a bunch of the lyrics of that song in. It's like, you can't put those in there.
Oh, really?
Copyright stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this was cool. And I mean, but just 2 days ago, it was quiet around the house. So when you have teenagers, that's kind of, uncommon. So I walked up into our office, and Preston was in my office chair with his legs on the desk reading ReLeader.
No,
and I thought,
that's awesome, dude.
My kids haven't even read my own book.
That's cool.
just reading, and I was like, yes,
that's incredible.
Cool, that was
really cool.
Huh?
He's 17.
Does he still listen to Tipping Point?
No, I don't think he does anymore.
Oh,
I don't think my own wife has read my book yet.
Really?
I don't know. She'd be mad at me if she.
That's cool that he's reading.
Maybe she has.
Do you know what prompted that?
No, I don't.
Huh.
I mean, yes, I do. My leadership is just encouraged. He just wants to be like me. No, I really have no idea.
I think that's awesome.
He's trying to relead his dad.
He's trying to
relead my dad.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Probably no one's listening to this podcast anymore at this point, but who cares? We had a good time today.
Yeah,
you get 10 extra gold stars.
Gold stars? What's a gold starred?
Gold star. Gold star.
Okay. I'll take that. All right. If anybody's still watching or listening to this, we love you. We're for you. We are praying for you. You're doing one of the hardest jobs on the planet, but you're doing one of the most important jobs on the face of the earth. When no one sees you, when no one notices, that's right where you belong. Run to the fire when everyone else is running away from it. Share this podcast. Be a part of this community. Go to ReLeader.co. Love you so much. Until next time, go fix something.